People in the churches are looking for a place to fit in. They ask themselves, what kind of worship style makes me comfortable? And the broad array of churches out there tells us there is quite a spectrum. I went to a church many years ago where on the way in, everybody grabbed a donut or two. They told me in the evening service they had pizza instead. I visited another church where we started the service, sang a couple of songs, had a prayer, I guess, and then there was a break. Everybody stood up, walked to the back, and met at a coffee station and drank coffee and visited for a while and then resumed the service. So we'll call that the coffee bar church. Other people like a more serious, studious sort of style. I have an old pastor friend named Harry who both pastored a church and taught in a Bible college. Dr. Harry would use the same tone, the same style, even the same substance, whether you heard him speak in church or at the school. I really couldn't tell the difference. He never used a word like preach or sermon. He was always teaching a lesson. So there's another. We'll call that the lecture hall church. Some people are looking for the wow factor. You know, the soloist who will lift you out of your seat and the worship leader who can get the buzz up and keep it going. I heard about a church where motorcycles crisscross and jump on stage, and the pastor, when he was preaching on sex and marriage, had a king-size bed out on that stage. So let's call that the Broadway musical church. But let's back up first and ask ourselves a question, a different question. With what sort of worship style is God comfortable? And let's see if we can find an answer in God's Word. We're going to take a look at the New Testament book of Hebrews, chapter 12, and we'll begin in verse 22. You have come to Mount Zion and to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, to an innumerable company of angels, to the general assembly and church of the firstborn who are registered in heaven, to God the judge of all, to the spirits of just men made perfect, to Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of sprinkling that speaks better things than that of Abel. So here's a different kind of church. A church that is formal, it's structured, the worship there is beautiful, and it's all wrapped up in the glory of God. We're going to call this the portal church. Hebrews is a book about the high priesthood of Jesus Christ, he in whom God and man are united, in whom heaven and earth are united. So when we, his body, assemble to worship him, our head, when we enter into his death, burial, resurrection, and ascension through holy baptism, when we take him spiritually into ourselves in Holy Communion, when we adore him, the living Word, in meditation on his written Word, then we're united with him in the very presence of his Father and our Father, in worship, ongoing worship before his throne. Because that's what the author of Hebrews is telling us. We enter into, here on earth, that ongoing worship in heaven. So, what more can we know about what that looks like, this worship that makes God comfortable? Scripture gives us a few glimpses into that ongoing worship in heaven. Here are just 3 verses from Isaiah chapter 6. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above it stood seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one cried to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. We're celebrating God's glory in our worship on earth just as in heaven. Take a look at Revelation 4 and 5 also on that subject. So we're going to call this the portal church, where heaven and earth meet, that doorway where we enter into what's going on in heaven. That's the kind of worship the Bible tells us God is comfortable with. I'm Father Ed. Thanks for being with us on the Gospel Blog.